Hello, Grumpy Old Fart here. I had to take a short hiatus because we were getting a new computer in. We got the new computer in. Wife had it set up. She's our tech person. Kudos to her. She's awesome. So now I'm back. Another thing happened while I was over on hiatus. My son caught a cold several weeks, almost a month back, and he and my wife have been passing it back and forth. And guess what? It's my turn, so I've got it now. So bear with me. I'm heavily medicated. My wife and I were talking the other day, and I was lamenting that I had no ideas for more videos because the political situation right now is pretty stagnant. There's a lot going on with the Democrat debates, but when you break it all down, there's none of them that can really, Trump's getting reelected. It would take an act of God, I think, to to keep him out, because there's nobody on the Democrat side that can even come close. So there's not a whole lot going on in politics right now. That being said, she said, I don't understand why you don't have any ideas for videos. And I said, what do you mean? And she said, well, you've been gaming for 40 years. I said, yeah, that's true. Okay. So I'm starting a new playlist. I'm starting a new category of videos, family game night, because family bonding is important, and having something for the family to get together and do is important. And these days, everything is expensive. You can't take a vacation without spending hundreds and hundreds of dollars. You can't, going out to the movies, you're going to spend $100, for any decent sized family. So that being said, you need something that your family can get together, make it every week or so, and bond over. And I've got the perfect thing. Gaming, role-playing games, any kind of gaming. There's a lot of board games out there, Monopoly and things like that, but I prefer role-playing games. And for those of you who don't know, a role-playing game is a group of people get together and you consume munchies and you have fun. That's what it's about. You're not on your cell phone and you're not at the computer. You're actually sitting around a table with real people having fun. So, for this first video, I'm going to talk about excuse me. That's a little better. Oh, that's too much. There we go. I'm going to talk about the granddaddy of all role-playing games, Dungeons and Dragons. I'm old school. I prefer advanced Dungeons and Dragons. I'm going to show you some of the books right here. This is the Player's Handbook. Oh, hang on. There you go. Player's Handbook. The Monster Manual. The light is just not... Well, and then Dungeon Master's Guide. Can I angle that forward? Maybe that'll help. No, not at all. That's just the color of the book. Sorry. But anyway, these 3 books will allow you to play this game and have hours of enjoyment. The books are fairly affordable. Once you buy them, you don't have to buy anything else. You can play with these literally. I've been using these books for 40 years. I've gotten more books over the years, and I've got a library of them. You can expand the different aspects of the game as much as you want, but all you really need to play are these 3 books. Now, a little bit of background for those of you who don't know. Back in 1974, Gary Gygax and Dave Arneson designed the very first tabletop role-playing game, Dungeons and Dragons. They originally wanted to call it Chainmail, and then they came out with the Dungeons and Dragons red box set, and then they went to this Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, and it says right here in the corner, Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, and then it's advanced further than that now. They've got 2nd edition, 3rd edition, 3.5. Right now I'm running a 3.5 game with my wife and my son, and but this game is a little bit of background here. The history of the creation of the game is intriguing in and of itself. But in the interest of time, I'm not going to go into all that because this video would be 6-7 hours long. It's ridiculous. There's lots of videos on YouTube you can look up about the history of Dungeons and Dragons and check it out for yourself. It's very, very interesting. For those of you who don't understand the concept of a tabletop role-playing game, I read a great explanation in another role-playing game. I want to say it was one of the Palladium games. Palladium's another game company, and they put out really good games. But the analogy is this. If you've played Monopoly, you have the board with all the properties, and you take a playing piece, the car, the shoe, the wheelbarrow, whatever, and you go around the board buying properties, and the objective is to become rich and drive everybody else out of business. It's really cutthroat capitalism. It's an awesome game. I love Monopoly. But this is a tabletop role-playing game is similar to that. But we got to change a few things. Instead of the board with the properties, you have an entire world. And this world is populated by humans and elves and gnomes and dwarves and halflings and, a bunch of different races. And they got bad guys too. They got orcs and drow elves and all kinds of stuff. Goblins and hobgoblins and dragons. Oh yeah, it's awesome. And instead of the little shoe or the car or whatever, your playing piece in the game is a fleshed out character, a person. And you roll for their stats and you build them up from scratch. And the idea is it's an entire person that you play this game with. It's designed as a team game, so you have a group of people working towards the same goal, completing the missions, working through the campaign, that kind of thing. There's one player that's called a Dungeon Master. The Dungeon Master, it's called different things in different games, but in a Dungeons & Dragons, this guy's called the Dungeon Master. And the Dungeon Master runs the world. He runs everything in the world that's not the player characters, the PCs. He runs the NPCs, the non-player characters. He runs the bad guys. He runs the monsters. And not all the non-player characters are bad guys. You got the guy selling fruit in the market, because you have to interact with him because he may have information you need. Or you have to go in front of the king. He runs the king. He also runs the city guard, who if your guys, if somebody in the group breaks the law, they come and thump them and throw them in the dungeon. I mean, it's an entirely made-up world in your mind, but it's hours of fun. All right. I started playing this game back in the 70s. I began running it in 1980. I am a dungeon master. I have been one since 1980, and I still run it today. I told you I'm running a 3.5 game with my wife and son. My son, by the way, is running a Dungeons and Dragons game after school. Parents, if your kids are having problems reading, writing, doing math, Dungeons and Dragons is a game for you. You cannot play this game without reading, writing, and doing math. You have to keep track of your hit points. If they're a wizard, they have to read up on what their spells do. It's an intriguing concept. Great family bonding experience. There's a number of different what are called character classes. It's occupations for your character. You could be a fighter or any subclass of fighter like barbarian or ranger. You could be a cavalier, which is a noble warrior. You could be a paladin, which is a holy warrior, a warrior in service of a temple. You could be a wizard who casts spells from a spell book, like Merlin. You could be a cleric, which is a militant priest, and they're great fighters. Plus, they have healing capabilities and different spells they can do for informational and some decent combat spells too. Blade barrier, flame strike, that kind of thing. And then you have thieves. In later editions, they're called rogues, but in Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, they're still called thieves. And they have a subclass of that called acrobat and a subclass called an assassin. And you can play any of these character classes, and it's ideal in a group to have a variety of different classes. You want to have more than one fighter, but you want to have a wizard, you want to have a cleric. Definitely got to have a cleric for healing. Excuse me. But the idea being, it's a team game. Everybody works together because everybody has different abilities. And it's a great bonding experience. And like I said, parents, if your kids are having problems in school, this game is good for them because you have to read, you have to write, you have to be able to do math. You know, as you play the game, your character acquires experience points. You complete tasks or do jobs or whatever. You get experience points, and the more experience points you have, the higher up you go in level. And as you go up in level, you gain more abilities. Wizards can cast more and more powerful spells, more spells and more powerful spells. Fighters gain more hit points and more attacks per round, and they're able to do more. Thieves have an array of what are called thieves abilities, climbing walls, pickpocketing, all kinds of neat stuff like that. Thieves can backstab for multiple damage. I love that. We used to run with a guy. He's one of my good friends, Jesse. He had this girl, and she was a thief, and she was such a high level, and she had some other magic things. When she backstabbed, she did, like, I want to say it was times 12 normal damage, and we called her the Ginsu Ninja. she was badass. But there are newer additions with a variety of different character classes. I prefer the basics because it has the flavor of the original game. That's just me. Other people might enjoy the newer versions better, but like I say, I prefer advanced Dungeons and Dragons. This is based on medieval sword and sorcery. It's highly influenced by King Arthur, mythology, various authors like J.R.R. Tolkien, who wrote The Lord of the Rings. Robert E. Howard, who wrote Conan. Fletcher Pratt. Edgar Rice Burroughs, who wrote Tarzan. L. Sprague de Camp, who wrote a variety of things, including some Conan novels. It's just a wonderful, wonderful way for a family to get together and spend time having fun. And people, I know guys today, I'm in my 50s, I know guys today who are older than me, and they have so many really great D&D stories. And I'm going to share some of those stories, personal experience stories, with you in further editions of this family game night. So, look forward to those. Anyway, I'm going to show you these books again. You need the Player's Handbook. You need the Dungeon Master's Guide. And up here it says Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. Advanced D&D. AD&D. And the Monster Manual. I wish the glare is really getting it. It's just not doing it. Color of the book. The writing is light. It's a yellow on blue, on light blue, and it's just not showing up on the camera. I'm sorry, but that's what they look like. Here, I'll show you the back. See. And those are the 3 books that you absolutely have to have. And the beauty of these is it's not like a computer game where you're sitting and you got your head in the computer, and in order to get more advanced stuff, you have to go buy editions and stuff. These 3 books right here, and you might want to get the Monster Manual too and the Fiend Folio for more critters to fight. But other than that, these are all you absolutely have to have. They're fairly affordable. You start playing, and as long as your character doesn't die, you can play that character for years and years and years. I have a character right now. His name is, we call him Paggio for short because his name's really long. And he is as a multi-class character. He's got a variety of different jobs, and he's so very powerful. I don't ever get to run him, but I ran that character for years and years and years. And he's in the hometown where I grew up. The character in the gaming community is a legend. But the idea being, I just played that same character for a long, long, long time. Different adventures under different game masters, and he just kept getting more and more powerful. So the fun of the game is to build a character, complete the missions, become wealthy. It's not like cutthroat capitalism where you want to drive everybody else out of business, but it's a team game where the group works together to complete the thing. And I can't think of a better way for a family to bond than over a role-playing game like Dungeons & Dragons. D&D got a bad rap back in the 70s for some stupid shit people were doing, and I'm sorry. If you take D&D out and put in a card game, it's still going to be bad for what they were doing. But my point is, it wasn't the game, it was the people. So So all that being said, overall, I would highly recommend this. It's a fun game, and I got a variety of different games that I've played over the years, and I'm going to try to introduce you folks to them. And hopefully you'll find some genre you like, because if sword and sorcery isn't your bag, say you like detective novels, they've got that. If they've got that in a role-playing version, you can play a detective. If you like the Old West, they have games like Boot Hill. I love playing in the Old West, but I couldn't find Boot Hill, so I created my own version, and I played with my son and his cousin. I think they talked about it on Arcane Gaming. If you like going to the movies and you like the Marvel comic movies, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, they've got games like that where you get to play a superhero in a comic book universe. Just anything you can imagine, there's a role-playing game about. And as a matter of fact, there's a game system out there called GURPS. That's an acronym, Generic Universal Role-Playing System. You can literally run anything in that, and it's a very, very well done system. I've played it a couple of times. I enjoy it. But for me, when I think of a role-playing game, I think of Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. That's what I cut my teeth on, and I still play it. And I think everybody out there who wants to spend time with their family and they want a bonding experience, this is the game for you. You folks have a good day. God bless one and all.